From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on June 8th, 2026 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. Happy primary day for listening on Tuesday. And on this episode of The Lede, I take you through my last week on the 2026 gubernatorial campaign trail. Well, the primary version of that, I should say. But there's a lot of moves, there's a lot of cuts. You don't care, but AT does because he had to do a lot of work. He got to experience just a little small microcosm of what I've been going through the past couple of days. But we wanted to bring you the voices of the voters, as well as the candidates who are battling it out there for your vote on June 9th. And so I brought their voices to the table, but I'm going to silence your voices for another episode because we're not going to have a wind down because it's a long episode. But it's an informative one, and I think will really take you on the trail with us so you can hear what's being said and what people are thinking ahead of the primary. But that said, we still want to hear from you. When I unmute you at 803-563-7169, you're muted. No, you're not. I'm just disenfranchising you from the wind down. But please give us a shout, 803-563-7169. We want to hear what you think, and maybe that will change after Tuesday. We'll be in a runoff possibly. We'll get some hot takes from all of our listeners, 803-563-7169.
Gavin gets to mute people in these debates. He goes wild, folks.
Hey, what are you doing? Don't make me mute you. Briefly, let's look at what's on tap this week at the State House. Session is out, but senators are back on Wednesday. There's also a joint bond review committee meeting as well. So that's going to be at noon on Wednesday for the Senate. Up in Congress, Congress is in, and there's a big House oversight hearing this week with Bill Gates on his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. On Wednesday on the economic calendar, we get inflation numbers for May. And last Friday, we saw a better than expected May jobs report with 172,000 jobs added, which is much higher than the 80,000 expected, but still below the benchmark of about 250,000 that signifies strong job growth. All right, trail life. Let's get back on it. And I want to walk you through the final days of the Republican gubernatorial primary campaign trail, mainly because this is about the biggest race and the most interesting one, if I can say, because there's so many personalities. But also, I haven't received any media advisories for any other campaigns, including the Democrats. So before anyone pops off, not that y'all do, just a little transparency there.
Thank you.
This is also the most competitive race, along with the Attorney General's race and maybe the Ag Commissioner's race, which we'll follow up on if there is a runoff. We'll see what shakes out on Tuesday night, and we'll dive deeper on those and who may be on the ballot for the June 23rd primary runoffs. It's a maybe, but it's a definitely, because remember, if a candidate does not receive 50% plus one vote, they and the next highest vote getter advance to the June 23rd runoff. If you voted in the Republican primary, for example, you can only vote in the Republican primary runoff. You can't switch. Now, following the debate on Monday, I huffed it up to Spartanburg early Tuesday morning to see Low Country businessman Ron Reddy at the Must Stop Beacon restaurant. That's right, the Beacon is known for its burgers as well as being a key stop for any Republican, whether they're running for president like George W. Bush or Senator John McCain, or governor like Low Country businessman Ron Reddy, who spoke before more than 125 supporters for about an hour on a range of topics, including President Donald Trump's recent endorsement, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette.
I don't know what the president's endorsement is going to do or not do. I can't worry about that. I always said I'm going to try the hardest I can, and I do believe that God has a plan for all of us, and whatever is meant to happen happens, and I'm totally cool with the result, whatever it is.
Speaking of burgers, Reddy also elaborated on the recent beef between him and Congressman Ralph Norman, who has taken to calling Reddy a fraud. Reddy has also been hitting back against innuendo launched at him by Congresswoman Nancy Mace as well.
Dude, you've been there for 20 years. When does the career politician start? 30 years? Like 25? At least pick a number, right? And so he got very upset and he kept saying, "You're a fraud. You're a fraud." And I said, "How can I be a fraud with my own money? I don't take money from anyone." So I defrauded myself. And then he got the post-news conference, he said that again, and I said the same thing. How can I defraud myself? Then he looked at my wife and said, "You're a fraud too." I said, "What did she do?" She made a commercial for me. She's a fraud. And then he turned to my manager and said, "You're a scumbag." Like, stop. Stop. I mean, we're adults here. We don't need to behave like this.
There's no doubt that Reddy's entry into the race has eaten into Norman's base. I asked Reddy supporter Marie Urquhart if she was leaning toward anyone else before Reddy jumped in on March 16th, some 7 months after others announced.
Well, actually, Ralph Norman, I heard him speak, and I like the fact that he was, for term limits and that sort of thing, but then I found out that he's been in politics for 20 years and hadn't done anything up to that point. I don't think he's going to start now.
She told me what she likes about Reddy and why she's been telling her friends to vote for him.
Well, I have heard him speak on, Zoom? And I'm impressed by what he was saying. Very direct, to the point. I love the fact that he is a businessman rather than a out-and-out politician that can be bought. So I am happy to be here and happy to support him. And I have been Barbara and I have both been spreading the word around. And I just called a friend to give him a heads up about coming. And he said, because of you, he said, I've already voted and voted for Ron Reddy.
As for the Trump endorsement of Evett, Urquhart said she wishes he would have supported Reddy, who was running in a similar way to Trump. Reddy is not taking any donations and completely self-funding.
I wish he would have endorsed Ron Reddy, but, I don't know that he actually, there's so many people across the country running for various offices that I don't think he just knows him. And I'm sorry about that because I am a Trump supporter.
Earl Edmondson, a retired Air Force veteran, is passionate against data centers and brought a sign with him to the event, a sign that Reddy signed with the inscription, "Data centers are a hoax." He told me why he's supporting Reddy.
Most of those folks are career politicians. I mean, as many times as Ralph Norman says, I'm not a career politician, 20 years in office will do that to you. That's exactly what it is. And I like that Rom's a businessman. I like that he thinks about what's good for the community and that he has the ability to make a deal that can get us successful. We just don't want any data centers. We welcome all kinds of businesses, but why would you invite something into your neighborhood that you know is going to kill you?
Then I popped over to Aiken on Tuesday evening to catch Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett hitting the stump with her boss, Governor Henry McMaster, as part of her Road to Victory bus tour. Well, it's more of an RV that her husband and others take turns driving around the state. McMaster introduced her before the crowd of some 150 folks at Bobby's Barbecue Buffet and also recounted why he picked her to be his running mate in 2017 for the 2018 election.
And so it came time for the election. And I needed a strong, I wanted something different. I wanted somebody strong. I wanted somebody that maybe they haven't seen before. And that's when some people started recommending this woman I had never met named Pam Evett that lives up in Travelers Rest with a man named David, and they got some children, and mama living in the house. And I thought I gotta meet this lady. So I asked her to come down and we talked for a little while, asked if she'd like to run. And I think she surprised herself. She said, I'll do it. And so that's where that began. And I learned again then how important it is to have a strong partner who does what she's supposed to do, who listens, who learns, and even teaches what she knows to others. I could not have asked for a better lieutenant governor. I could not have asked for a more loyal partner. I could not ask for a better family to come along with my lieutenant governor. And I'll promise you this, Donald Trump does not have a better friend in this day. Our candidate, our lieutenant governor, Pam Evett, is the only one of all the fine candidates we have. I'll say that. I'm not saying anything ugly about anybody, but she is the only one that has been with Donald Trump from the very beginning. And ladies and gentlemen, she hadn't faltered, she hadn't wavered, she stood behind me in everything we've done, everything I've worked with these people and others to get done. She's been there the whole time giving quiet but steady advice. She is enormously qualified and ready for this position. So we're not going to have another chance like this in a long time to have a new governor like this with a president like that. He's got 2 more years. He needs help. We need help. This is a team sport, and these are the members of that team.
Evatt spoke about her priorities, including judicial election reforms and the need to protect speech, specifically conservative speech at publicly funded universities. The statement took on significance after she was set to speak at South Carolina State University's commencement in early May until students signed petitions and protested the move, and she called the protesters a woke mob, language that even some Republicans derided.
I want to make sure that we keep conservative speech alive and well here in South Carolina. I said it when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, that if tenure is what stops the indoctrination on college campuses, then let's get rid of tenure. I didn't understand why they had tenure when I was in college, and I really don't understand why it's still there now. And then, as of recently, I have made a pledge to all of you that any institution in South Carolina that tries to stop conservative speech, that gets taxpayer dollars, we should eliminate those taxpayer dollars from those institutions.
Evatt's event was held days after President Donald Trump endorsed her in a Truth Social post. Like we mentioned in the last pod about Trump also alluding to Governor Henry McMaster's son Henry Jr. likely being her running mate, something both McMaster and Evatt denied to me and other reporters at that stop in Aiken on Tuesday. Nevertheless, it made the endorsement land more like a thud than a splash and gave other campaigns life, when such a critical endorsement was set to be a death sentence. This past Friday, Henry D. McMaster Jr. said in a tweet that while he supports Evatt, that now is not the right time, saying, quote, "I've been overwhelmed by the outpouring of support from friends, neighbors, colleagues, and even strangers encouraging me to run for public office. But now is simply not the right time to be considered for lieutenant governor," quote. In fact, Donald Trump put out another Truth Social post on June 8th, that's on Monday, and he did not allude to Henry D. McMaster in that post. So things change really quick on this campaign trail towards the end here. But I spoke with an Evatt supporter, Lydia Del Rossi, who said Evatt's consistency is what separated her from the pack.
Well, I'm a conservative, obviously, and I've been watching everybody that's running, and I like her message. I own my own business. I started in 2004. I have 600 clients. I own a health insurance brokerage company, and I do it all by myself, so I completely relate to somebody that's taken it from the ground up, and I have tremendous respect. So right away, and I've always said this even with Donald Trump, I want a business person, because there's too many career politicians out there, and God bless them, they'll have their place. But when you know how to run a business from the ground up, you know how to run everything from the ground up, and she's made a great lieutenant governor up until now.
And so was she always your pick, or were you looking at other candidates?
I look at everybody. I mean, I'm an equal opportunity person. I never just set my sight on one thing, because you never know. People change, and messages change, and sometimes there's little things you need to watch, but everything I've seen with her over and over is consistent. And she's the same person she's always been. And I don't want to sound silly, because I'm actually from Long Island, but having lived in the South for 35 years, but she's got these virtues here that are solid and steadfast and make sense for this part of the country.
As for the Trump endorsement, Lydia said it's a nice thing to have, but wasn't what swayed her.
I think it's lovely, but it doesn't mean all that much. I mean, I voted for him. That's a very nice thing, but it doesn't put a check mark on it for me. I look at the individual themselves.
Evatt continued her Road to Victory bus tour of stops in the Low Country, Midlands, York, and the PD before spending the last 2 days in the Republican stronghold of Horry County, including at the Carolina Country Music Festival in Myrtle Beach. Now, on Wednesday, I was all in on debate prep for the Democratic debate, which y'all listened to last pod, and there was a lot more of it on YouTube as well, so check it out there. But Thursday, we were back at it on the trail. I followed Congressman Ralph Norman around the Midlands, specifically Lexington County, where he went to Hudson's Smokehouse Barbecue. A lot of barbecue on the trail, folks. That's what it is. And that's the spot Attorney General Alan Wilson launched his campaign from and will hold his final rally at tonight. So not exactly the most friendly territory for Norman, but he also went to Mama Rabbit's Bites and Sips just down the street. There he was talking to folks during lunch and also had his running mate, former Greenville Representative Adam Morgan, with him. We spoke with Congressman Norman about Trump's endorsement and the discussion of Henry D. as a running mate.
I would just turn it back and say, talk to different people that like the Trump endorsement. You have some that don't like it. So it's all a matter of your perception. As a whole, I think it's a positive for Ms. Evatt. But everybody's got to make that choice. And Trump's not on the ballot here. our names are on the ballot. And I will say he picked somebody that's not Trump-esque. Pamela hadn't done anything for 8 years, and as far as any type of accomplishment. But people have to make that call.
Norman elaborated on why he is calling Reddy a fraud, including speculating that Reddy and Wilson are in cahoots.
He is a fraud because he met with Alan Wilson in January. They met at his house. He met with leadership. The sole intent is to take support from me. No one can run to the right of Ralph Norman. They can't. If you look at everything he is posting, it's against me. It's not against the others. He's a fraud because he's putting things out like I voted against the Big Beautiful Bill. I did not. I made it better. I passed the Big Beautiful Bill. He's putting out that I own land on a particular company in Fort Mill. That's a lie. So he's a fraud in his intent that he's running. He took money for Doge when he was going to have the big Doge commission. He was running for governor and just didn't tell people. That's why he's a fraud, and I don't make any bones about calling him that.
I also spoke with Debbie Myers, who was about to enjoy herself a flatbread pizza before I
shoved a camera and a microphone in her face.
And she said she was set to vote for Norman the next day on Friday.
Education, life issues, corruption is probably one of my biggest issues this year. We need some reforms in how things are managed downtown, and we need people who are not afraid to stand up to what's going on down there. And I actually told the congressman, funny story, I told him that he reminds me of Ronald Reagan. I've got a Ronald Reagan vibe with him because he's steady, he knows what he's about, he's not going to be owned by anyone, and I believe he can get the job done.
Myers also said that while she supports Trump, she doesn't think he was correct in his endorsement.
I wasn't really that surprised because Trump has made some really bad picks. And he doesn't live here, and he doesn't speak for me. I mean, I appreciate a lot that Trump has done. I've supported him. But he doesn't know South Carolina issues the way that someone who has lived here their whole life would know South Carolina issues. He has not seen what the state has become as far as the governance of it. And so I don't need him to tell me who to vote for. And we don't need a coronation, by the way. We need someone who earns her nomination instead of being hand-chosen.
I stuck in the Midlands and went to an Alan Wilson event at Steel Hands Brewery, which if you haven't been to is one of my favorite breweries in the state. Just to go, a little insider's guide to the state by Gavin. And I was happy to enjoy 2 coffee lagers after we got off the clock with some fellow reporters and politicos. But the band Tokyo Joe was also playing at the event outside as the sun was going down and folks were enjoying their Thursday happy hour. Wilson hit the stage for a few moments in between sets.
As I've traveled the state, I've taken a message, and my message is this. Every single decision that I make as your next governor will be based on this. It will be based on me fighting to make our state more affordable for you and your families, to make our economy more profitable for you and your businesses, and to make our government more accountable to you. That is what people want, and that is what we're going to give you. We're going to eliminate your income tax, reduce your property taxes, Doge, fraud, waste, and abuse from government. We're going to fix our crumbling roads and bridges, promote a kids' first education agenda, put in innovative technologies, and the list goes on and on and on. But I can't do it without your support. Folks, everyone here tonight, I am asking you for your vote. Now, if you came here tonight and you're already with our team, I want to say this to you. Thank you. Thank you for your vote. Thank you for your support. If you came here tonight undecided, that is okay too, because I have to earn your vote. And what I'm asking to those of you who came here undecided, I'm asking you to give me the chance to fight for you. I am a fighter. I'm a 30-year combat veteran, a career prosecutor. I've led soldiers in combat, and I put violent criminals in prison, and I want to take that same type of leadership to the office of governor. Now, if you're also here tonight and maybe you're leaning toward one of the other campaigns, this is what I would offer to you. If on Wednesday morning you wake up and your first choice in the primary is not in the runoff, but I am, can I be your second choice? That is what my ask is of you.
Wilson has kept that runoff pitch up for months, and with 5 candidates in the field, it's widely expected that we will have a runoff on June 23rd. Wilson took a tour of the brewery and shook every hand he could among the hundreds, even folks who weren't there for him, including people having retirement and birthday parties. In fact, he actually ran into some folks that he knew, and, that's just the magic of a small town. Take a listen, just this ambient interactions here.
Whose birthday is it?
Retirement.
What are we retiring from?
Teaching.
Teaching. You're too young to retire. Of course I know.
Yeah, you figure who I am, did you? Hey, baby.
You doing all right?
I'm great. How are you?
There's one of my high school classmates right there.
Lexington County is Wilson family turf. I just said that. I mean, it's everyone's turf. But, it's where they're from. And it's a very red area of the Midlands. We spoke with Wilson in a brief gaggle about the final days on the trail and the Trump endorsement. That's all we're talking about right now, folks. You'll also hear the Post-and-Courier's Nick Reynolds in this segment.
I've been traveling the state of South Carolina. People are excited. I'm getting a lot of energy in the base. Every place I'm going, we're having good turnouts. For me, when I think about this endorsement, look, President Trump and Governor McMaster are good friends. They are loyal to each other. I respect both of those men. But that endorsement was about a friendship. This is not about who's the best governor for the state of South Carolina. I'm running to look out for those families of South Carolina, not for the first family. I'm going to be focusing on the people of South Carolina.
What significance do you think it had for just the regular voter who might not be paying close attention to everything that's happening in the field?
So, first off, I have talked to 1,000 people, give or take, since Friday night. I have not talked to a single person that it has influenced or who thought it was a good look. Not one. But for those people who thinks it is influential, I've seen polling that suggests that 57% of South Carolina Republican primary voters already thought she had the endorsement. And I'm looking at internal polling right now, and what I can tell you is I am very comfortable with where I am.
I asked Wilson about Norman picking up Morgan as his running mate and the reason why he put Florence Senator Mike Rickenbach on the ticket back in January. You can read between the lines on this response here.
Look, I like Adam Morgan. Adam's a fine person. Ralph believes that Adam's going to give him an advantage in this campaign, and that's their strategy. I respect Adam Morgan, and I wish him the best. Obviously, I think I have the best candidate for lieutenant governor. I put my candidate out there back in the second week of January, Mike Rickenbach. And the reason I announced Mike Rickenbach 5 months ago is that I wanted to give all you guys in the media and all of these people out here a chance to vet him, to interview him, to hear him speak on the stump. I didn't wait till the last minute. I'm not running from announcing who my running mate is. I also wanted to give the people of South Carolina an opportunity to see what kind of judgment I would use. Like, who I pick as my lieutenant governor is going to signal what kind of people I'm going to put into the administration. Mike Rickenbach is a 20-year law enforcement veteran. He's a successful businessman. He's a beloved state senator with an accomplished record in the Senate. And he's a man of faith, a man who's deeply interested in supporting South Carolina values and our families. He's been out there on the campaign stump with me for 5 months, being interviewed by people, giving stump speeches, being questioned. I trust my judgment, and I trust Mike enough to put him out there for 5 months. And so these other candidates that these other two people have picked, that's fine. But I think I picked the best candidate, and I trust him.
Now, Friday, I caught my breath and did some errands, mountains of laundry, and really got situated for the final days of this campaign and the inevitable runoff like we're talking about. And I also drove up to Greenville, #YeahThatGreenville, that afternoon to overnight ahead of Norman's breakfast stop in Anderson the next day and Wilson's events in Greer. I was at Mama Penn's. We got another Mama here. Mama Penn's restaurant in Anderson Saturday morning. And it was rich with diners, a lot of tables of guys with their breakfast groups talking as Congressman Norman walked table to table, handing out cards and fielding questions and shaking hands. One diner, Stephen Gould, said the visit helped him decide as he's stuck between Evatt and Norman.
Well, I'm concerned about what's going on in South Carolina with everybody moving down here from the north, and I did 20-some years ago, but I'm a conservative, and I want to make sure we stay conservative, and that we have a governor that's going to make sure it stays, conservative as well. And so my concern with Evatt is that she's kind of the establishment a little bit, but I like a lot of what she says, but again, I didn't know a whole lot about Norman, and so I'm trying to, I like what he says too, and what he stands for, and that he wants to run it like a business, the state, so those are interesting.
Did President Trump's endorsement of Pam Evatt make a difference for you at all, or?
In a way, yeah, that's probably what's got me leaning toward her, but up to that point, I really wasn't real serious about who I was going to vote for, but just trying to get down to the last here. I've narrowed it down to those two, and so talking to him helped a lot.
In a separate room off the dining room, Norman spoke to about 50 folks about his vision for the future. He was joined by former Senator Jim DeMint, and as he closed, Donna Rogers asked Norman if she could pray for him. She told me why.
I do believe there are an awful lot of people out there today, unfortunately, using the Christian name as a stance in which they do not truly believe and walk. And that is so disheartening. I believe that Ralph is true to his word, and I'm hoping to see that played out, and that he has that opportunity to show us that. But that's my discouragement in our country today, is too many people are using the conservative picture to say, I can do this, and yet they're not true to their word.
When I asked her about Trump's endorsement of Evett, she said it broke her heart. Now, Norman's campaign also dropped a new ad on Saturday featuring his good friend, former Governor Nikki Haley. The two actually served in the State House together, and Norman introduced and endorsed her in February 2023 when she kicked off her presidential bid that ended following Super Tuesday in March 2024. Norman then endorsed Trump for president. Let's move on over to Wilson's event in Greer, which was about 65 people strong Saturday afternoon at a restored mill that's been turned into housing. Wilson spoke before the crowd while key supporters stood behind him, like Greenville County Sheriff Hobart Lewis and former opponent Spartanburg Senator Josh Kimbrell, who endorsed Wilson.
Well, the last year or so, I've been in competition with someone, but he never stopped being my friend. In fact, we had many conversations after debates or after forums or after events or something was going on in the State House, and I'd get a text message or a call at 10:30 at night, and I'd call Josh Kimbrell, and we would have a conversation. It was almost like we weren't even running for the same job, because we never stopped working together.
We were buddies, yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing: when you get that pickup game of basketball or that game of ping pong, you love the person at the other end of the table, or the other end of the court, just as much as if you weren't playing against them. But you are competing, and we were competitors for a time, but we were always friends who had a shared vision, a collective vision for our state, of putting the people and the families of our state first, returning to our conservative values, maintaining our conservative values. Josh, you have been an absolute amazing person at articulating a vision that I share. And I stood up there on the debate stage with you, and I remember there were times during the debate other candidates would say stuff, and he and I would do this. We would kind of mouth the words to each other like that just didn't make sense. But Josh, competing with you, sometimes when you compete with somebody, you grow to resent them or you grow to respect them even more because they make you better as a competitor. You made me a better candidate because of how good you were. So I want to thank you for standing up here. Josh, obviously jumped on board this week. And I know you will continue to use that skill set you have to continue to articulate a vision for the people here in the upstate and the people of South Carolina. I look forward to working with you as your next governor, man. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your service.
Every little bit is going to count in this election, and Wilson is making sure he shores up as much support as he can, including with those endorsements. In fact, he even had Sarah Timmons, the ex-wife of 4th District Congressman William Timmons, and Melody Duncan, the ex-wife of former 3rd District Congressman Jeff Duncan. I spoke with both of them after the event, and neither wanted to discuss their former husband's infidelities, but rather what led them to pick Wilson out of a crowded field. Here's Sarah, who also owns her own law firm, talking with me after the event.
To me, what has earned my complete and total support of Alan Wilson is the fact that he's been fighting in the trenches from day one. So he's been working, whether that be in military and as Attorney General, making our state safe, prosecuting criminals, prosecuting against federal overreach and whatnot. I think his commitment to actually being action forward and having that experience will be a very nice transition for our state as we go into the next few years.
And here's Melody.
Well, I think just his experience, he has a lot of experience in state government. Not that some of the others don't, but he just has a lot more experience because he's been Attorney General for a long time. He knows the needs of our state. He's had them come across his desk. He knows that people are hurting out there. So I just think he has a lot more experience and can hit the ground running.
Now, it's Monday. We are wrapping up this taping. We are hours away from polls opening and then closing. And I'm going to head on up to Greenville to be with Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett this evening at her rally. Really trying to get a good balance of everyone as I can. Early voting wrapped up on Friday with a record number of folks turning out. So there's a lot of energy here. Even though I'm going to go ahead and be honest, it feels like a little low energy. Maybe a lot of people have already decided who they want to vote for. The polls are doing their thing, and it's just it's kind of a toss-up right now here, folks. I'm not going to make any predictions, but we do expect to see a runoff happen June 23rd. But again, tune in to ETV and South Carolina Public Radio tomorrow night, Tuesday, June 9th. Starting at 8 p.m., we're going to have live coverage, wall-to-wall, commercial-free coverage. We're going to have in-studio analysis with Winthrop University political science professor Dr. Scott Huffman, who's a friend of the pod and always has really insightful things to say. And we're also going to be hearing from some other folks, reporters in the field, and possibly the state party chairs. So tune in. We're going to have that coverage, bringing you some insightful, informed, and very factual and context-heavy coverage that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else, especially for 2 straight hours, folks.
And we're gonna, and thanks for having me, Gavin.
No, we're not. I told you at the beginning.
I forgot.
Told you at the beginning.
I thought we were doing it. Okay, do the outro.
I know. Everyone wants to wind down, as if there's nothing else going on right now. We're going to get a wind down soon, folks. I tell you, we'll have a whole summer of wind downs, I promise you. It's like a campaign trail promise. A whole summer of wind downs. Lead podcast producer A.T. Shire. Really try to get it there. It's okay. Give us a shout, though. We want to hear from you. We need things to talk about during the lead summer of wind downs. 803-563-7169. It's almost summertime.
The solstice is almost upon us.
And we can always take your support and appreciation by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. And you can always stay up to date with the latest news on SCETV.org and SouthCarolinaPublicRadio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. Cindy Wilcox is our intern. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina.
Oh my God, we got more. Oh my God.
What page are you on?
You found Nurhachi?
He's an awful small guy.